I welcome everyone in today's topic, which is on writing the research grant proposals for funding, Throughout this session, we'll cover multiple of points, such as we'll start beginning discussing about understand what is the grant proposal, understand what are the grants, research grants, and how should we write the proposals for them. Next, we'll go through and learn how to identify the granting agencies for which we can write the proposals for funding, What are the expectations and the instructions that they give us to follow? There are several types of grants that we'll go through. For various fields, various granting agencies will be there. We have to look into them and then apply accordingly, which suits with our respective field. We'll take a look at the structure of the grant proposal. Also. And what is the grant submission process? Subsequently, we'll see once the grant is awarded, what has to be done? How should we go and implement it? And what would be the evaluation criteria for the same? And lastly, we'll take a look at the rejections. What if our grant proposal has been rejected? What has to be done next? So those are the points of agenda that we'll cover throughout today's session, which we are presenting currently. Let's begin with the definition of the grants. The grants means, the grants is nothing but an external funding. Grant is nothing but the external funding which is provided to support the research endeavors with the selected focus in a given thirst area. Right? So there will be several thirst areas in which we have to write the proposals for funding. Generally, the funding source and the problem identification, right? So generally, the funding agency, it identifies the issues or the thirst area which they want us to address. Right? So generally the funding agency, they will identify the thirst area, and they will expect that the researchers, they can develop the solutions towards those problems, generate the ideas, addressing the identified problems. So we are called here, the researchers, those who are write the granting proposals for funding, they are called grantees. And we have to develop the innovative and creative proposals which are aligned with the thirst areas mentioned by the funding agency. Sole execution would be done by the principal investigator and co-principal investigator. Here the principal investigator is, if you are comparing with reference to the research article, you can say principal investigator is the first author and co-principal investigator would be the other authors. Now, they have to execute the entire research project if they get it. They have to execute the entire research proposal if they get the funding. The appreciation of the research grants for our research career is extremely important. What we can do is, it gives us a financial support. We can hire project staffs, we can hire research staff or maybe PhD students also, and then we can conduct the meaningful research. In the given particular thirst area. And it gives us an external recognition also to put it in our CV. And sometimes it helps us during the promotion or to establish the research labs, to develop something new. And the students, those who are working with us on these projects, they will also be benefited by that particular grant and develop the lab, right? The successful execution depends on the particular person or the researcher who is writing the proposal, right? And it helps us to develop the lab, hire the research scholars or maybe project staff, develop something new. It helps us to publish the papers. Sometimes it helps us to increase the collaborations, to establish the collaborations. Sometimes it helps us to increase and establish the collaborations. Let's identify the several funding agencies. These are not limited to these particular agencies. However, there are 4 broader categories. The first one is the internal grants. First one is the internal seed grant. Which generally is given by the organization to support the research activities within the organization. So this is one good one is you can call it the early research career grant. Early career research grant, which is generally supported by ANRF, right? Early career research grant, which you can apply there also. Many of the organizations, they support new faculties when they join. They provide the initial support to them so that they can establish their lab. Then they can apply for the external funding further. The second important source is the state government. In whichever state we are, they provide the funding for boosting the research within the state. Then the third one is the central governments. Third one is the central government based grants, such as ANRF is a central government portal which supports the funding for many engineering and science researchers. DST, Department of Science. AICTE, generally very well known, is Atal program. AICTE Atal program is very well known. Many people, they apply for it. Department of Biotechnology. Then University Grant Commission, UGC. CSIR, METI. Then there are a few more of them, such as, let's say, ISRO, DRDO, BARC, or there are several public sector units. They also provide this kind of grants. If you are from mathematical background, NBHM is one agency which supports mathematical research proposals. There are certain private industries, right? So they provide specific fund which is called Corporate Social Responsibility, CSR fund, which is called CSR fund, right? CSR fund. Corporate Social Responsibility based fund, CSR fund. And these are sometimes easy to get because the timeline would be quick. So the moment when you write the proposal, within 2 to 3 months, whether it is accepted or rejected, we will come to know. Whether it is accepted or rejected, we'll come to know. So these are the wider categories where the engineering and science research has been funded. The other fields, because there are people from other fields, such as, let's say, UGC supports many other fields. If you are from, let's say, historical background, history, then Indian Council of Historical Research, which is known as ICHR. Then Indian Council of Philosophical Research, which is also known as ICPR. And then Indian Council of Social Science Research, if you are from social sciences, Social Science Research, ICSSR. National Archive of India, NHI. Sahitya Academy. Indira Gandhi National Center for Arts, IGNCA. National Mission for Manuscript. This funds the extra paid charges or manuscript cost, writing the books and those kind of things. They fund it. So that is also a good funding source. SHRI and Department of Culture, Ministry of Culture, right? So these are the several other fields where the funding opportunities are funded by these particular agencies, Now, how to identify a particular funding agency, right? So always when we have spotted these funding agencies, let's say you spot 2 or 3 funding agencies within your field, and then you can keep checking their websites or their announcements. You enroll for their LinkedIn pages also, where they advertise the new call for the funding. Read the grant bulletin regularly. And if your R&D, research and development cell, or office is keen, they can track all these kind of funding agencies, make an Excel sheet and give it to all the faculties or researchers for writing the funding proposals. For an example, if there is a researcher or a PhD student, and let's say gets the PhD student, right, and if he gets a conference paper somewhere, let's say international conference paper, and he wants to have the travel support, then there are funding agencies which will provide the international travel support, which is called ITS. So in that way, that student can apply for the funding and travel across the world. An opportunity of the alert from the other sources, such as, let's say, make a friendly network. Sometimes we come to know about this kind of calls through our friends in social networks. Personally, enroll for their LinkedIn profile, right? Where the funding agency, I'm talking about the LinkedIn pages of the funding agency, right? LinkedIn pages of the funding agency. You can enroll there and you can keep observing what are the latest calls. That was our identification of the grants. Now, we have to look what are the expectation given by the funding agency and what they expect and what are the information that they have. So the idea is we have to ensure that our research is in line with the funding agency's mission, right? And whatever the funding agency has given the thirst areas, we have to ensure that our research is in line with that. And we have to frame the proposal. We cannot write randomly anywhere. So we have to identify the research problem. That aligns with the current thirst area. Given by the funding agency. Right? So that was the identification. Let's take a look at various types of grants. What kind of grants that we can apply for? So, first very important one is the research grant, right? Research grant is kind of a funded proposal where you can, let's say, hire SRF or JRF or a project staff. Sometimes we can enroll PhD student also. You can buy the equipments or develop the research lab. Then in that contingency, consumable, other things will also be supported. So that is called the research grant. Next one is called the equipment grant. Let's say if we are doing some sort of hardware design, or maybe our entire lab is hardware focused, and then you want to buy some sort of equipment that you can buy from this particular grants. Training and faculty development grants. So here you can see this particular grant, such as, let's say, one example, AICTE Atal, right? And there is an agency called MMTTCE. I don't remember the exact full form. Madan Malviya Mohan, some sort of training teacher center. I don't remember the exact full form and the short form, but that also provides that kind of grants to train the faculties. Curriculum development grant, to develop the curriculum of a particular course which can be done here. Fellowship grants, let's say for collaborating with the international researchers, Indian researchers can go anywhere, any other country such as, let's say, USA or maybe Germany or maybe anywhere, Canada or any country, and they can collaborate and do the research. So we can spend at least 2 to let's say 6 months in their lab, and they can train us, and also at the same time they can also come to India. They can also come to India and they can spend their time here, right? So we can find out the collaborator, and then you can do that. For an example, let's say generally IGST or DST provides very good kind of collaborative research grants. ANRF also supports internship grants. This is mainly for undergraduate and postgraduate students, where they go into the national labs and research labs or bigger institutions where the research is good, and they can spend their, let's say, 2 to 6 months, and they can do the internship there. So these are the wider types of grants which we have seen, 6 major types of grants which we have seen. After understanding what are the different types of grants, what we have to do is, we have to go through all the instructions given by the funding agency. Ensure that we strictly adhere to all the instructions provided by the funding agency. Ensure that we follow all the instructions provided by the funding agency, and familiarize yourself with the request for proposal. Generally, they give the RFP call, which is called request for proposal. So you go through this request for proposal and understand all the requirements which they are looking for the researchers while framing the grant proposal. Consider the viewpoint of a common reviewer. Generally, let's say, if we fail to adhere to the instructions, they generally say that if the principal investigator is unable to understand the instructions and unable to draft the proposal, if we give them the funding, they'll not be able to execute the research. So that's why it is extremely important that we understand all the instructions and follow them exactly what is been expected, what is been expected from us. Follow the guidelines. It is imperative to adhere to all the guidelines strictly. We have to follow all the guidelines strictly and respond comprehensively to all the sections, whatever they have asked for. Respond comprehensively to all the sections, whatever they have asked for. Okay, and specified format has to be followed when framing the grant proposal. I'll show you the grant proposal and I'll share the sample grant proposal also, where we can take a look and you can have a hands-on exercise, build a small grant proposal so that you can understand how to write the proposals. Address the topics in order to the presented in the guidelines, right? So we have to address them exactly in the same order. Use the headings and subheadings that correspond that is given or defined in the given structure of the proposal which they are asking for. Endorsement letters are extremely important. Generally, these endorsement letters will come from the head of the institution, or maybe look at that, your principal or head of the institution, right? Head of the institution. It's kind of an NOC, right? Endorsement letter that they are allowing us to apply for it, and PI's undertakings, which means this proposal is not being multi-posted to multiple funding agencies. No multi-posting. Multi-posting is not allowed. AI score maybe less than 10%. Plagiarism less than 10%. Right? So those kind of undertakings we have to give them. We'll take a look at more in detail. The next step after reading all the guidelines is to start. So once we understand all the requirements, create a checklist. Ensure that we don't forget anything. Plan and organize well. Gather all the necessary information. If you don't understand, seek for the clarification through the program coordinator or maybe peers. Review and revise, right? Once we have written, review, keep review and revise. Consult relevant parties, such as, let's say, sometimes I prefer to call a program coordinator also, and then submit on a time, So that is the workflow. Getting started. Where should we start? Start a small and build a track record, right? Slowly you can start. Generally, any proposal which we start writing, it takes around a month. First, we write a broad content, develop the idea, problem statement, and then in subsequent rounds, we try to condense it, right? Such as we can get started with the internal grants, such as, let's say, institutional grants, where we can start with some sort of smaller proposals. Then we can take a look at the new investigators grant programs, right? Let's say ECRG, Early Career Research Grant, or a startup research grant was this kind of programs. This is recently floated by Anusandhan Research, ANRF, right? They have floated this. Need not to be the exactly same agency for you. You can decide in your field what is the funding agency. And the formula is, have an outstanding idea. We have to be innovative. If the idea is new and the novel, then we can easily get the funding. Align the investigation scope with the institutional resources and the time constraint. We have to see what's available with us, what is the scope and our resources available at the institution, and accordingly, you can write the proposal. Transform your basic idea into the fundable proposal. Then identify a specific problem which is related with the thirst area and develop the proposal. Emphasize novelty. This is the most important part. Our idea must be novel. We have to think something new and then develop the proposal. Maintain the reasonable level of probability of success. So that we can implement it. Where should we start? Familiarize yourself with the given field. We have to keep updating ourselves so that whatever the new idea comes, that we can catch. Plus, how we do that? How to stay informed about the developments in our fields? The best way is to update the knowledge is we keep reading the recent research articles or patents, right? That is a good way. Keep reading the literature, scholarly literature and publications. Attend the conferences, seminars, such as we are attending this kind of talks, or maybe we go outside and attend some sort of international conferences, meet researchers. Build a network. When we attend the conference, we meet the experts and peers in that particular field and gain the knowledge. Beware of the emerging trends and methodologies, what people are doing. Keep reading so that we can also update ourselves and foster the deeper understanding around those key concepts in our discipline, whichever the discipline which we are working. Regularly assess and refine your expertise in the given subject matter. Right? Keep reading, keep updating in the given subject matter, whatever is there. What are the key research issues? Maintain a note of that so that you can work on those and convert them either in the research proposals or research papers. Research proposals are the seed for the research papers and the PhD students. Let's say one research proposal, we can hire one PhD student and give that problem statement to him or her, and then he can develop his entire research around that and get a degree that helps them to have a clarity about the problem statement, what has to be done, so that the research scholars also do not struggle, as well as we get the funding to support our research, establish the lab, hire the project staff and other things. How will we address the key research issues and find out the solutions? So that comes through by reading. Your checklist contains check what is the due date, what is the page limit, word limit, budget limit, abstract format, reference format, PI, principal investigator, co-PI, co-principal investigator. This is analogous to first author and other authors in comparison with the research paper, right? Their eligibility you have to check. What is the submission method? What are the file types? Check on the font size also. Everything has to be followed, which has been mentioned by the funding agency. What are the contents of the table? Research objectives, tables, figures, everything you check, whatever is needed. If there is a conflict of interest, disclose that. If you are related with the fields where the subjects are humans and animals, you have to take the corresponding clearances, right? So that you have to take. If you are in a doubt, always call the program coordinator. If you are in a doubt, call the program coordinator, write an email. They'll help and they'll address them, right? So that we don't waste our time. Sometimes writing an email could be a good idea, or call directly could be a good idea, even before commencing the proposal, writing. Because once we write, it takes a lot of time. So we can save that entire amount of time by contacting the program coordinator for the clarification. So that's how we can do that. Now, how to develop the project proposal? Have a focused approach. The mixture of everything, those kind of project proposals, generally they don't get the funding because the researchers, they don't have a clarity. Therefore, have a focused approach, and that comes with a minute reading. It's okay if you don't know everything, but whatever we know, two or three things, or the particular given field, we have to be master within that particular field. So your scope, keep it focused around the problem statement. Address specific methodologies and the solutions towards that particular problem statement. That what kind of methodologies or solutions that we will develop to address that particular problem statement. Use tables, charts, figures, other things to effectively convey your idea, right? Do not fit too much into one proposal, right? Do not make it too much that I'll do this, that, even many other things, n number of things. That shows that we are not focused. It's okay to propose one or two things, but have a thorough clarity, have a deeper clarity. When writing, maintain the expected quality standard, the size and the complexity. Our solution should be also enough novel and complex and in size so that it can solve that entire problem statement. It shouldn't be like trivial idea, right? Look at the English and use the advanced vocabulary when writing the proposal. These days, there are multiple tools available. You can leverage or take help from those tools to enhance your English writing. Let's take a look at the structure of a grant proposal. How we frame it. Let's take a look at a structure of a grant proposal. Build a cover page. Okay. Build a cover page. Tables of contents, right? What are the contents within that? The project title. We'll take a look at more in detail, and we'll take a look at one sample proposal also, so that we can understand what it is. Abstract or a project summary. The problem statement around that particular thirst area. Keywords, which present the entire idea. What is the goal? What are the objectives? What are the expected outcomes? And the work plan and the methodology for the proposed problem statement. How are we going to achieve? What are we going to do? Right? Time schedule of the activity. All the activities, they have to be tabulated and provide the bar chart or a time schedule so that we can show that how it will progress. Evaluation and dissemination strategies. References. budget details and justifications for each budget. We'll take a look everything in detail. The curriculum vitae of the investigators. The curriculum vitae of the investigators and the facilities available at the host institution. What are the facilities available at the host institution? Endorsement letters and undertakings. Endorsement letters and undertakings, right? So that is the whole structure of the grant proposal. Title. Begin with a title. Title is the most important thing for a given proposal. Develop a title of your grant proposal in such a way so that it is compact, concise and impactful. It presents the entire idea within the length of 6 to 12 words. Within the length of 6 to 12 words. And it is often used to assign the reviewers. It is often used to assign the reviewers. Often the program coordinator or the screening committee, they look at the title and keywords and then read a bit about the abstract and decide the reviewers. So that's why it is extremely important. Next important thing is abstract, which we often call a project summary with reference to the grant proposal. Abstract guidelines, it should be clear and it should present the rationale for conducting the given proposed research which we are proposing in the proposal. The problem statement, it forms the basis of the project goals, objectives, methods and evaluation. So this abstract should begin with little bit of the introduction, 1 or 2 lines. Then it should begin with the problem statement, focusing on the given goal, objectives, the methodologies which we are going to develop to accomplish that goal and objectives, right? And what kind of evaluation or performance metric that we will use. Craft an abstract to be in such a way so that it is self-sufficient, and only that's the section sometimes people read. Once we are impressed by the abstract, then people will read it further. Think about the reviewers, those who are assigning the grants, right? So according to that. And the objectives, that is the next part. Clearly outline the objectives in the abstract little bit, that what you want to do, such as, let's say, you can present some sort of hypothesis model and clearly present any hypothesis model that you want to test, experimental plan. If you are proposing any experimental research, provide the detailed experiments which you want to conduct. What is the significance? Significance estimate. Provide an estimate of your contribution, that how they will be significant, right? And exactly follow the page limit or word limit. Sometimes they could say that, let's say, 600 words. It is different for different funding agencies, right? Or you can say, sometimes they call it for a 1 page. Do it in 1 page, right? So it's up to them. Sometimes they say 3,000 characters. Draft accordingly and provide the comprehensive coverage about your idea, what you want to do. Provide the comprehensive coverage about your idea, what you want to do, right? So this is really an important segment. I would like to show you a sample proposal in parallel so that we understand how it works. So let me just go to that document. So here you can see this is one of my older project proposal which I got the funding for a few years back, right? So here you can see this is the project summary or abstract. This is the project summary or abstract. This is the project summary. This is the project summary or abstract, right? This is the project summary or abstract. Here you can clearly see that it says, let's say, this is the introduction part. It says, let's say, I want to work in the field of 6th generation of wireless communication. So I start with 5G first. Then I discuss a little bit about the 6G. And then I move that what is the problem. And I see that what technology and method that I want to propose. So such as here I can say deep learning oriented blockchain based technology for resource allocation. And what would be the methodologies that I'll develop, right? After that, I mention my objectives and keywords that will come back again when we go to that particular section. So let's go back to the slides again and then cover further. Then we'll keep going back and forth between the proposal and slides, right? So key questions which you have to ask is, let's say, what significant needs that are we aiming to address in our proposal? See, our proposal should be in such a way so that it solves the principal problem for many people or fundamental problem. Assess the current status of these needs. Are they relevant right now, or there is no requirement of it? Project contribution. Will this project effectively fulfill the identified needs? Am I contributing something to solve the problem for many people? If yes, go ahead and write the proposal which is aligned with the third area. Actionable step. Clearly define the necessary actions which we want to take. What kind of service delivery we are targeting? Who are the target recipients? What is the impact of my research? Impact analysis. What is the impact of my research? Potential impact of my research. That you make a study of it, and then identify the knowledge gap. Now, this is something when you keep reading. After reading, let's say I keep reading the literature. When I read more, in the initial time frame, I may not be able to identify the gaps, which is absolutely fine. But when I become more and more mature in my reading, slowly I'll be able to identify that this is a gap 1. This is a gap 2. Right? And in that case, you can identify the gaps. There are several tools available, such as, let's say, size space, which we use for literature review, and it helps us to identify the research gap also. Explore the significance of the problem in the literature, considering the local, state, regional, and the national perspectives, so that our proposal become more stringent. And then project's contributions to the future study. Is there any compelling evidence that this project will pave the way for other significant studies in future? Identify that. Look at the previous efforts or previous works which have been done by the other researchers to identify the current problem what we are proposing, and evaluate how effectively we are different from them, and what novelty we are bringing compared to them. The next important part, after the title, an abstract or project summary, is the keywords. Keywords, they provide the concise overview of our proposed work. And which is often used for the reviewer's identification. Program coordinator or the people those who are screening, they look at the keywords and then they will assign the reviewers. The guidelines to frame the keywords is avoid framing, let's say, 10 or 20 keywords, maximum 5 to 6 keywords, which are attractive, and they should be presenting the entire scope of our research proposal, what we are trying to present. And there could be some sort of character or word limit also. Ensure that the length of the keyword doesn't exceed more than 30 characters. Right? Let me show you in parallel, or maybe, let me show you in parallel. So that keywords such as, let's say, here you can see, these are the keywords. You can see 6G wireless networks, crisp keyword, which I can present that, okay, my proposal is on the 6G wireless networks. What I want to do is deep learning, blockchain technology, and what I want to do is the resource allocation. 4 keywords. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just 4 keywords. They represent the entire work, what I'm proposing. They represent the entire work, what I'm proposing. Right? So that's the keyword. The next important thing is goal and objectives. The goal should be generally one goal, and all the objectives, they should logically align with that particular goal. And it should be in the form of a problem statement is your goal. And the purpose of the goal is it encapsulates the ultimate intent of the project. Often we call the problem statement also, right? And the opening statement could be, let's say, when I am writing a proposal, it should be like that. The goal of this project is to demonstrate so and so thing, and then you can get started. So that's the goal. The characteristics of a well-placed project is generally it has one goal. I prefer only one goal. Sometimes people put 2 goals, which is okay. Generally, one goal followed by a few objectives, that would be good. So generally, it encompasses of 3 to 5 objectives to accomplish that particular one goal. And involves numerous of methodological steps, or you can say different methodologies to accomplish those objectives, to reach that particular goal, right? And the objectives clearly articulate the core of the proposed work, outlining what will be established, what would be accomplished, right? So that is the objective. Provide the measurable breakdowns, such as, let's say, overreaching goal into the specific measurable components whose outcomes can be addressed to gauge the actual accomplishment. So cut them into the measurable components. Also, what are the end results and discussions? What would be the end results? Deliberate on the desired end results that we are going to accomplish. Discuss that. Put them in the order of a priority, right? Organize whatever the objective is having the highest priority, put them on the rank 1, and the subsequently other low priority objectives, put them into 2nd or 3rd rank, right? Ensure that the most important objective that is in line with the goal is at the 1st or 2nd rank, right? So that's how it works. Specificity, it must be highly specific. The objectives must be highly specific. It cannot be generic. It must be highly specific. Limit to maximum 5 objectives. Maybe sometimes 4 objectives, but do not go more than 5 objectives, because it shows that we are not focused. 5 objectives. Evaluation criteria that, okay, let's say objective will serve as a key evaluation criteria during the monitoring stage of the reviewer. So let's say once we got the grant, it would be evaluated based on whether we have accomplished that objective or not. And then let's say you have objective number 1, you got the first release of the grant, right? If we accomplish this, then and only then they'll release a second installment of the grant. They'll release, and which will help you to accomplish the objective number 2. So based on the step-by-step accomplishment of the objectives will help them to release the grants, as well as it reaches to our accounts or institute's accounts, so that we can continue the research. And it must be directly linked with the methodology. The objectives should seamlessly lead to the development of the methodology or multiple methodologies related with the multiple objectives. What are the expected outcome? Highlight the expected outcomes, including such as, let's say, you are targeting to develop a particular product, or you're trying to develop a particular service or a facility or a particular literature. Clearly provide the expected outcome, that what would be the expected outcome out of the objectives. Let's go back to that proposal and see how to frame the objectives, right? Let's see in parallel, let's see how to frame the objectives. You can see after project summary, we discussed about the keywords, and these are the objectives. Objective number 1, objective number 2, objective number 3, objective number 4. So these are the 4 objectives which I proposed. You can limit to 5. I prefer to go with 4 without reaching the 5th one. Right? So that's how we can frame the objectives. Now let's enter the technical or core part of the research proposal. If you are not from technical field, that is okay. Then it would be the core part of your research proposal about what you want to do. So the origin of the proposal, the story, from where you are motivated to get that work. Elaborate the rationale behind taking that particular work. Elaborate the rationale behind taking that particular work. Examine the current state of the research and development in that particular given field, right? What is the literature available in that one? And emphasize the importance and significance of the proposal. Generally, there would be a page limit. This would be around 1 page. Literature review could be around 1 or 2 or 3 pages, up to you. Generally, I prefer 2 pages. Story and the motivation part could be 1 or half page, up to you. Look at the funding agency's guidelines, do accordingly. Highlight the novelty. Specifically, put and highlight your novelty claim. Spotlight that what's new or a new research gap that you are trying to address in the present research proposal. If it is location specific, mention that also. If it is location specific, mention that also, right? So let's see, work plan and methodology. Okay, I'll go to the project proposal and I'll show you after this that comes. Okay, so here you can see origin of the proposal, or you can see what is the root or motivation. So you can discuss based on your field. You can discuss based on your field, right? What is the motivation or behind taking this work? Would be around half a page. Would be around half a page. After that, the literature review starts, which could last for 2 pages. The literature review starts, which could last for around 2 pages, right? So here you can see, yeah. So this shows entire literature review in the given field, what I have studied through, right? National and international status, and what is the importance of the project in the context of the current work. Why my project proposal is important. Why my project proposal is important. This is the half page around that I have shown, right? Now after that, let's go to the slides and then discuss. So you go through the literature review nicely, read very good literature in your field so that you can understand what is needed. Provide the comprehensive and clear plans, how each objective will be accomplished, and in-depth explanation with the clear plans addressing the objectives, right? Maybe you can use different methodologies using the diagrams, frame different schemes, provide the system models, use tables, figures, equations. Do not use too many equations, but you can use definitely few equations to support your work, and include various methodologies or schemes which are aligned with those objectives and a goal using, let's say, figures, tables, equations, so on, right? So on. And provide a system model. System model means it's a diagram which represents and discusses your idea, Provide a system model. If you are providing a mathematical model and simulation study, do that. Incorporate the advanced mathematical model or what you are going to develop that you can discuss about. Provide a proper justification why we have to conduct this particular research. Explain and justify why the project research plan is expected. And this would be around 5 pages. This is the core part, which includes and shows how we are going to accomplish the particular work. Let's go back to the proposal and see how we do that. So you can see I propose the particular methodology, and then how am I going to do that? Let me zoom it a little bit. Okay, so this particular methodology, and then literature review summary, that what we are going to do. What is the stimulation? Stimulation means a little bit of motivation, why we want, and advanced mathematical modeling and simulation studies, or maybe experimental design or something what you are going to do, such as, let's say, I propose to do the experimental setup. This is the futuristic one, but I can draw the system diagram and propose that this is something I want to do. So here you can see this one is the proposed system diagram of a particular setup. It did not to be same here. It could be anything with reference to your work, but have a diagram and explain that in detail. So have a diagram and explain that in detail so that people will understand that we are not faking or we are not talking in the air. We have little bit of clarity about what we are proposing. We have little bit of clarity about what we are proposing. And in the course of time, there could be the changes, which is okay. In the course of time, there could be the changes during the execution, which is okay. So now let's go back to the slides and go further, right? What are the common issues with the methodology section? So first one is, it is often written poorly or entirely it is missing. It is often written poorly or it is totally missing. The importance of the methodology is not clearly mentioned. The methodology is crucial for, let's say, many rejected proposals because it's not sound. We haven't proposed a sound and novel methodology, or we don't have a clarity. Sometimes it is very lengthy, right? So this section is often most detailed and extensive in the process. Sometimes it goes very lengthy, so then also it gets rejected. Sometimes it is very small, then also it is rejected, right? So we have to be optimal, and it must be task oriented and specific. We cannot go here and there randomly. It must be specific, focused, right? So be specific, focused and task oriented when you write this kind of proposals. Demonstrate a logical flow, right? With each step, with the periodically processing from the preceding one, right? So one after another, how we are going to process the entire work. Novelty. This is the most important part. It must be innovative. And clearly specify the chosen research design and justify the selection of the given methodology. Now, include thorough descriptions. If there are variables, explain about them, articulate them, show their relationships, everything, right? Provide the explicit definition for all the critical items that have been used in the methodology. If you are using a particular data source, provide the comprehensive description about the data sources, detailing the subjects, selection criteria, subject pool size, and the sample size, right? We ensure that you provide all the details. Articulate all the procedures, procedures, inclusion of the pilot instrumentation data. So let's say if you are planning to conduct a particular pilot tests, include the pilot instruments and the data also, or what would be the step-by-step plan, outline that, right? What is the step-by-step work plan for each objective in line with the given goal or problem statement, The questions for the methodology, that let's say walk the reader through your entire project proposal, right? What's your main idea? So that within that particular, that you explain nicely. Describe the activities as they relate to the objective. Particular objective, what are the activities? Another objective, what are the activities or methodologies? Develop a timeline and proper chart to show how much time we are going to take. And now, how will the activities be conducted? How are we going to conduct that? When are we going to conduct? How long will it take? Who will conduct? Generally, this would be, we can say that I'm going to hire a JRF or a research scholar or master students or anything, right? Where would it be conducted? If it is location specific, mention that. And what kind of facilities do we have? And what kind of facilities we need from the funding agency so that we can develop. After that, the time schedule comes. You have to provide a bar chart or this kind of chart to let them know that what kind of how much time I'll take. So for an example, this is my, let's say, first activity. So I start selecting the research staff, procuring the high-end equipments and so and then start doing the so generally research staff would be like, let's say it will take around 1 to 3 months to hire, procure the equipments, another 3 months to procure. So right, so first 6 months we'll do that. After that, we'll start working on particular methodology. It will take around, let's say, another 6 to 8 months, and so on. We'll establish the experimental setup. It will take around another year, And then finally, once everything is done, we will do the patents, publications, and reports. We'll do the patents, publications, and reports. That will take another 6 to 8 months towards the end. That will take 6 to 8 months towards the end. That will take 6 to 8 months towards the end. Okay. So these are the activities and milestones that we have to accomplish. Budget details. Budget details, in that we have to budget for, let's say, manpower, right? Project staff, for an example, JRF or SRF or research associate or any of the project staff. If I prefer to hire a PhD candidate, so I propose in that way that throughout the 3 or 4 years of project span, I'll hire one PhD candidate and then pay the stipend from the project fund. So I like that because this gives a solid retention of the candidate for 3 or 4 years, and they also get a PhD degree. They get the stipend from that fund. So that's what personally I prefer. You can hire a PG students also, maybe master students, up to you. So you have to provide the particular requirement of the fund. Let's say manpower. How much time, how much stipend you will give, or how much salary you will give. So first year you need some sort of money. Second year you will get some sort of money. Third year you have to get some sort of money and then put it in a total. Later, consumables. Where you can buy the items such as, let's say, chemicals or batteries or printers, printer cartridges or something. So you have to put some sort of budget there, right? And then for 3 years you get travel. This is for presenting the conference papers, right? Traveling for the, let's say, for attending the review meetings of the project review committee, and then other networking things. Equipment and software tool. I buy a particular equipment, then I have to have the money for that every year. Generally, what we do is we put the lump sum amount in the beginning, and then we buy contingencies. To continue the project work, we have to have the contingency items so that we can sustain, right? Sometimes we pay the paid charges. Sometimes we pay the paid charges. There could be a separate head also, let's say open access charges or APC, article processing charge. Overhead that goes to the institute would be around somewhere 10 to 20%. It depends on the funding agency's policy, and then you did. In equipment, you can buy, let's say, for an example, workstations you can buy, software tools you can buy, different materials you can buy, but materials can be bought in consumable also. Consumables generally provide very good things. Let's say if I want to buy a software license, I buy it under consumable. I want to travel to attend a particular meeting with the funding agency, I can go and travel, or present a conference paper also. Could be national support. For international support, we have to have the special approval from the funding agency. They may approve if the paper is in line with the goal of that. Contingencies, publications, and other things that we can do that. Looks like I misclicked somewhere. Okay, so overhead, as I said, is for the institutes. Adequate planning of the resources is extremely important. Assess that sufficient fund is available for carrying the research objectives. Generally, people don't plan and they'll run out of the fund. Ensure that all necessary resources, including the personal equipment, funding, equipment and the funding, are thoroughly evaluated. Ask what you need for. Do not under ask, do not over ask. Ask what you exactly need for. It must be aligned with your project needs. Cannot be asked anything here and there. And tailor the budget. Sometimes we cannot ask, like, let's say, infinity of the budget. We have to see what is the typical funding amount that the funding agency is providing, and accordingly tailor that nearby that. Ensure that resources are efficiently utilized, right, and that they have been allocated. Provide the potential contingency plans and the strategies for securing the additional resources if needed. Let's say in between, if I'm running out of fund, then some sort of contingency plans, let's say matching grants, or I provide the extension of the proposal to some other projects, right? So, and this evaluation should be holistic, right? Provide a comprehensive examination of the adequacy of the resources for the successful execution of the project. And provide the accurate detail of why you need that. Dissemination. Let's say once you got the project, now you have to disseminate the outputs. Now you have to disseminate the output. How would you let others know that that's your research? So generally outline, when writing the project proposal, you have to outline what would be your dissemination strategy. How would you disseminate your outputs, right? What is the, provide the emphasize the importance of this reporting process, so that the funding agency's name would be highlighted there, and then every word would be benefited. Provide the plan, right? And the how would you specify how research results will be made accessible to others, such as, let's say, to go for a conference and present, run the workshops, train the people, patents, journal articles, so on. Provide the dissemination channels, such as, let's say, workshops, publication, journals, conferences, etc. Right? Provide the detail. Material production and the promotion. How would you do that? How would you establish the online presence and share your outcomes with the others? How would you establish the online presence and share the outcomes with the others? How would you specify which specific results will you report? Right? We don't want to report everything. We will report whatever can be disclosed. What would be the target audience, right? What are the dissemination methods? As we have discussed, conferences, workshops, patents, journal articles, online online presence, video lectures, anything. What would be the publication outlets? Clearly state them, correct? Audience engagement. How would you increase the audience engagement? What dissemination method will you use to increase the audience engagement? What would be the maximized impact? What would be the maximized impact, right? Ensure that we discuss the dissemination plan nicely, right? Other information. If there are other requirements, such as, let's say, environmental impact assessment and risk analysis. If you are in that particular field, you have to use this information. You have to provide this information and take the clearance also. In the other information, curriculum vitae of the principal investigator. The person who is investigating, his curriculum vitae should be there, right? Investigator's expertise. What is my expertise to accomplish that project, right? I have to clearly show them that what is my expertise. Professional achievements. If I have any papers, journal articles, conference articles, patents, any preliminary results, highlight them. They help. What would be the role and responsibilities of co-PIs and PIs? So let's say there are multiple people who are writing the project proposal. What would be their roles and responsibilities, right? And if there are any past projects which have been submitted or implemented, give them. Such as, let's say, list of the projects submitted and implemented by the investigators in last 5 years. So whatever the projects I've completed, I have to put them here. Whatever the projects which I have submitted in last 5 years, or maybe right now in last 1 or 2 years, I have to put them here. And what are under implementation? So these are ongoing. Under implementation right now. These are in the past. And this would be submitted, right? These are submitted already in process, or you can say under review. Or you can say under review. The next section, sometimes they ask, what is the facility available? Let's say, with the institute, your organization, it has all the facility, infrastructural facility, all the advanced facilities, whether they have it or not. So you have to just say yes or no here, right? Based on whatever is applicable, whatever is available with your institute or organization. Next is the equipment available with the institute and research group. Such as, let's say, if I have a research lab and I have some sort of equipments, I'll put them here. And if I have a co-PI and let's say if they have some sort of equipment, I'll fill this up and say, in our department and institute, these are the equipments which are available with us. And these are the other equipments which are available with co-PI also. This is important. It gives the confidence to the funding agency that this person is capable of executing. They have the initial set of equipments, and with our funding, they can buy new equipments and enhance the research outcomes. Now, after that everything is been done, let's see the proposal quickly first, and then we can come back. Okay, so all in all, let's say I'll just quickly go through and show you around. It begins with the title, then the project summary or abstract, then the objectives, then the keywords, expected outputs and outcomes. What would be the outcomes, right? You have to clearly mention them. Suitability of the proposed work, theme of the work, that would be kind of natural thing. This is the simulation, this is the motivation, or you can call it an origin of the proposal. This is the literature review, generally international status, national status, what kind of works have been done within the country, outside of the country, or sometimes it could be combined also, just a literature review, up to the funding agency, how they want. What is the importance of the proposed project in the context of the current status? Highlight the novelty part, claim the importance. Then the methodology we have seen. In the methodology, system model is the core part, if the experimental research it is. So, provide a solid block diagram, sound block diagram, have a clarity about what you want to do and explain that nicely. After that, the bar chart, how the activities would be conducted, right, with the timelines that you can show. What is the suggested plan of utilizing the research outcomes expected from the project? Explain that nicely. See, these are the expertise, and this is the expertise of, let's say, any of the principal investigator. Explain that how much experience you have, patents, publications, experience. Your expertise and your co-PI's expertise, right? If you have any papers, everything, last 5 years, you put them here. So on. We have seen the entire proposal. We have seen the entire proposal. Now let's see how we put it on a particular portal. So see, sometimes this is tricky. So you just go through the entire portal first. I am not worried about this, sir. That was the older name. We have a latest portal also. So this is called ANRF, Anusandhan National Research Foundation. But it would be different for your different fields. So which is okay. But you study this entire thing. So first you have to feed the profile detail. Enter all your profile details there. All other details and everything, right? I'll go to the previous slide and that would be better. So yeah, here. Your details, you put that there. After that, they'll ask you to put the budget detail, which contains manpower, consumables, travel, equipment, contingency, other cost, overhead, everything would be considered here, right? So that gives you the budget detail. This is the most important part. They'll look at that first. Then if you have any research collaboration in the past, discuss about that. Then if you have any research collaboration in the past, discuss about that. Sometimes the collaborated proposals, they get funding quickly. Right? Your future plan about the research collaboration with some agencies or researchers, discuss about that. Upload the documents. In this, all this will be coming, like let's say abstract, keywords, your objectives, expected outcomes, then the methodological section. Everything will come in this particular upload document. There you can put that everything. If you have any other information, you can put that here. Finally, review and submit. Finally, preview and submit. This is the latest version of the older portal, which I have placed here, both of them. You can go through that in time. Endorsement certificate is extremely important on the institute's letterhead. On the institute's letterhead with the official seal and stamp. With the official seal and stamp. And many times, if you are not able to provide this, it directly leads to the rejection in the preliminary screening itself. They do not review it further. If it is multiple institutions, based, let's say multi-institutional project, then you have to take the certificate from each institute. And let's say if you have a co-PI, he also has to submit all these documents from the same institute or from wherever he is coming from, right? So for PI and co-PI, both of them, they have to submit the endorsement letter. Which is, for a simplicity, we call it an NOC. PI is undertaking. Let's say I'm not submitting this project proposal to the multiple funding agencies, right? So this is how it looks like. Certificate from the principal investigator that I'm not doing the multi-posting. I'm not having the funding on the current proposal already from some other grantor, right? So I disclose that. If there is any biosafety and ethical clearances, that I'll take and then supply, right? Sometimes they ask that it should be the facility which has been developed, it should be shared, and then we disclose that, okay, we are going to share with the percentage of the time. PI's undertaking, it includes that the plagiarism and AI score below 10%, right? It depends on the funding agency. Generally, I prefer below 10%. I prefer. Why individuals refrain from pursuing the grants? First and foremost thing is the lack of time. We have to be efficient, create time for it. Limited resources. We don't have enough resources, then we have to find out the resources, develop them. Application process, sometimes it is complex and we are unaware. But believe me, when we start, then and only then we'll come to know. Slowly, expertise will come and then we'll be going through. The competition, it will be always there. We have to participate. Don't never be afraid of the competition. We have to be participating and keep going and do the best in our capacity. Uncertainty of the success. It's highly uncertain, which is okay. Out of 20, only one proposal gets selected. Rest 19 gets rejected, which is absolutely fine, and we keep trying. Lack of expertise, we keep working and we build that, which is okay. Eligibility criteria. Sometimes, let's say there is a particular eligibility criteria and I don't have it. Then we have to understand the deficiency in ourselves and then get that missing point and then improve, right? So that's how we can bridge. Misalignment with the goals. The objectives are not aligned with the goal, right? So that's a trouble. Administrative burden. Sometimes we are very much loaded with the administrative burden. So we have to find out the way to trade it off. How much we want to spend in the administration, how much we want to spend in the research. Fear of rejection. 1 out of 10 proposal will get selected or 1 out of 20 gets selected. So which is absolutely fine. Consider it as a learning opportunity. When the proposal gets rejected, learn from it, study from the feedback and keep moving. Increased success rate on the resubmission. When we amend the feedback, learn and resubmit, the chances of selection gets higher. Almost, let's say, second, third, fourth, fifth try, when we keep trying, the chances of getting the funding proposals would be better. So, general idea is in a year, write 3 or 4 project proposals. Out of that, 1 would be coming in the next upcoming year, 3 will be rejected. So, in that way we go. Common issues, lack of time, right? Writing is an Olympic event. So, we have to practice discipline in writing. Let's say every day 1 hour I read or write. That kind of discipline we have to make. Consistent practice is needed for it. Have a daily writing routine. Write for, let's say, 1 hour or read for 1 hour and then practice in that way. I generally dedicate 1 or 2 hours for reading and writing. So there we keep tracking the new calls, read and write the project proposals. Importance of the daily commitment. So let's say if we don't sit down, it will never come. We'll never be able to do it, right? So grant writing is imperative. To secure the grant, you must actively engage in writing the proposal and reading. Otherwise, it won't come. It serves a catalyst for a professional development, because if you have a fund, you have a flexibility. You can hire a PhD student. He'll conduct the research. We can publish the papers. We can pay the pay charges. We can travel. We can buy the consumable. We can learn. We can develop the lab. We can establish the salaries, or we can pay the salaries to the research staff. It would be an employment for someone. So that's how it goes. focused thought process is extremely important. When writing, do not deviate. The focused thought process is extremely important, and strengthen the proposal with review feedback. Let's say you talk to some sort of peer, or maybe those who have an experience in writing, and then you can talk to them and you can do the attributes towards the successful grants proposal. So let's say clarity. Articulate the purpose, goals, and the methodology with utmost clarity. If we don't have a clarity in that, we won't get the funding. Our goal and objectives, they must be assigned with the funding agency's mission or thirst area. And present a realistic, feasible plan. It should be innovative, right? And what would be the impact? The potential impact and significance of the project. Present the impact, right? The impactful research, generally they get funded very quickly. Provide the compelling narratives, very well structured. Be concise. Do not write too much, right? Do not keep repeating. Maintain the conciseness and avoid unnecessary details which are not required. Provide the thorough understanding of the research and highlight the gap. Look at the realistic budget, right? Do not ask, let's say, infinity of the budget. Look at what is possible realistically and then draft the budget accordingly. And take the reviewer-centric approach. Anticipate and address the potential concerns and questions which may be raised by the reviewers. Think as reviewers think, and then look at what could be the questions, address them up in the front so that we don't face the rejection. Be consistent. Consistency in formatting, language, and the tone when you write. There are multiple tools available. You can use them, which will help you in writing. Adhere to all the guidelines given by the funding agency. Do not miss any of that. Highlight if there are any collaborations or partnerships, such as, let's say, you have some sort of collaborators in some foreign universities or other domestic universities. Some collaborations with startups. Highlight that. Provide the mixed proposals or maybe collaborative proposals. Objectives should be measurable. If there are any ethical considerations, go ahead and do that. Look at the adaptability and look at the beyond the grant period. How would you sustain? Let's say after 3 years, fund is over. What would you do? Right? So you have to provide the plan for that also. Pay attention to the details, including, let's say, grammar, formatting, and the accurate information and everything. Strategic communication, right? Importance of the urgency of the project objective. Clearly state why my work or project proposal is essentially needed and why is it urgent to address this particular problem, and then start with that. It should be evidence-based. Provide some sort of claims. Provide the evidences for the given claims and something you give to support your urgency claim. Engage in the thorough review and revision process. Once it is written, revise it multiple times. Review, revise, and then you submit. Take the help. Take the help from co-PI, co-principal investigators. Collaborate and take the help from them, right? Take a joint effort, because sometimes they will identify some mistakes or help us to enhance the quality, edit the proposal further, which will give us a competitive edge. Avoid any technical errors and go through the editing and proofreading multiple times so that we can reach the. So now see, the delicate equilibrium between the conciseness and wordiness. Sometimes we are too wordy, sometimes we are too concise. So that should be an equilibrium between wordiness and conciseness. After editing, right? So after, let's say, completing the initial draft, what you have to do is put it aside for a week. Do not touch. Sometimes it's better to detach for a week and then come back and then conduct the revisions. Seek inputs from your, let's say, co-principal investigators or other peers. who are in the same field and who can help us. Edit for a clarity and conciseness, right? Look at if we are not repeating any of the unnecessary information again and again, right? And cut that part loose. Avoid using jargon. Avoid using jargon when writing the proposal. Avoid using the jargon when writing the proposal. Exclude the first person perspective. Generally, tools are available which will help you to write. Due date preparation, right? Leave always some sort of backup time before the due date. Do not just try to submit the proposal just on the due date. Take some time. Have a contingency plan. What if the downtime is there? Generally, we raise a ticket to the funding agency that your portal is not working. Once you have done the submission, save the confirmation receipt and save the reference ID, which will be used for further communication. Avoid submitting on the last day. Internet outage 1 hour before the deadline. Avoid that because we spend a lot of time in writing the project proposal. We don't want to just submit 1 hour before the due date or due time, right? So leave some sort of, let's say, 1 or 2 days in buffer. Common causes of the failures: lack of clarity. We don't have a clarity. Misalignments with the guidelines. We are not following the guidelines. Weak justifications, right? Insufficient justification for the proposed work. Inadequate planning. Unrealistic project planning, right? That is also one weakness. Lack of innovation. I wrote the project proposal, but it's trivial. There is no innovation in that. Absence of the innovative elements. That is a weakness. Unrealistic budget. I'm asking too much. Infinity. No one is going to provide me that. That leads to the rejection. Other common causes of the failures, let's say poorly defined objectives, unclear, immeasurable objectives. That is another reason. Lack of research support. I don't have a facility at my organization. That may also cause that. Weak team composition, insufficiently qualified team. I am not enough qualified, or my team members are not enough qualified. That may result. Failure to address the concerns, ethical oversight. So let's say there are some sort of ethical issues. That is also disregards of the guidelines. If you are not following the guidelines, it may result in rejection. Non-compliance with the specific structure or the requirements outlined in the guidelines provided by the funding agency. Right? Ineffective communication, poorly crafted narratives, we fail. Overlook formatting. We haven't formatted properly as per the guidelines, we fail. Lack of adaptability. Adapt the proposal in respect to the feedback. If there is a feedback from the co-PI or from the reviewer or from initially in the preliminary stage, they may ask us to revise the budget sometimes. We have to do that. Insufficient review, right? Without thorough review or proofreading. We haven't, let's say, sometimes reviewed the proposal and we have just submitted without proofreading, without review. Proposal is weak. That may lead to the rejection. Let's say, good news, you got the award. What would you do? So generally you get a notice that you will receive the fund. Now it's an accountability of the PI to execute the entire project. And deliver whatever the objectives are needed. Expenditure approval. All the project expenditures requires approval from the funding office. So we have to keep looking at when we purchase something, we have to take the approval from the relative competent authority within the organization or sometimes from the funding agency. Reporting the deadline responsibility. They'll ask to submit the reports within, let's say, a year or 2 or 3, and then finally closure and everything. Correct? Evaluation. How would you evaluate? Assessing the progress, right? That is important. You continuously evaluate every 6 months, present the progress to the review committee, and then they'll evaluate and then they will release the next fund. So evaluating the project during the execution as well as at the end is extremely important because that gives the rating, and then that is extremely important because the next funding comes based on that rating of the PEI, right? Final evaluation that goes at the end generally. What happens? when the financial resources are exhausted. Let's say I am running a project, let's say 3 years, and money is gone. Money is total expand. We have spent everything, right? So now what we do? What do we do? So generally we provide the some sort of matching grants, which will help us to execute the project beyond the given funding by the organization, or we write the new project proposals to fetch new funding to continue the ongoing research, right? So matching grants generally our own institute provides. So let's say if we get one CR or something, let's say whatever is the unit, and then let's say around maybe 20% or 30% of that institute may support. 20% or 30% of that institute may support. That's called a matching grant. We can write the extended version of the proposals also, right? And we can continue. And or if you have developed a project, we can sell and have the sustainable income to continue the research. Explore the avenues for generating the income, such as let's say products, services, matching grants, extension of the project, right? In that way, we can keep doing the things. Rejections. If your proposal is rejected, do not lose the heart. If your proposal is rejected, do not lose the heart. That is almost with everyone. Mostly the first attempt, the proposal gets rejected, and which is absolutely fine. We learn from the rejection and we keep moving. Carefully analyze the reviewer's comments. Amend the proposal. Revise your proposal. Identify the new ideas, strategies, everything. And then also carefully take a proactive look that if I am missing anything, to enhance the quality, change, level up. If the rejected proposal was old or maybe very trivial, change, find something new. Take advice from others, those who have already have the ongoing projects. Take the advice from them. Success means having, let's say, one in 10 or 5 grants. So what we can do is we can recycle, update, and then we can sometimes what we do is, let's say the idea is not good, put it in a dustbin, start a fresh new idea, right? If the proposal is getting rejected, it's better to have a new idea sometimes, right? So you keep doing in that way. Obtain reviewers' comments. Look what were the deficiencies, improve. Sometimes you need a clarification, call the program officer and seek for the clarification. Rewrite, revise, and resubmit. Sometimes I say just dump that proposal, write something new. That is also possible. So you look which one works best for you. Greatest mistake is not to write the proposal. Greatest mistake is not to write the proposal. That's the fatal mistake. We have to start. Once we start, we learn. We fail, we learn, which is okay. Which is absolutely okay, which is a part of our life. And never give up. That's all I have for a day. Thank you very much for your time and listening to this session. Good luck.